My name is Élodie, and what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story about numbers on a bank account. It's the story of a betrayal. A betrayal by a mother. Since I was little, my mom handled everything. Papers, appointments, the accounts. She was a widow, and I was her little princess. That's what she used to say. But what I didn't know was that behind her smile lay a strategy. My father died when I was 8. A sudden accident. He left me an inheritance. A good one. But since I was underage, everything was frozen until I turned 18. Fair enough. Except, I'd later discover that the lock had been forced. It started when I was 16. I had just landed a summer job. One day, I went to the bank, innocently, to request a statement. The advisor looked at me, hesitating. She asked if I wanted a short or full history. I said, "Full, please." She printed it. And there, I saw the transfers. Regular, discreet, to my mother's account. She had the legal right, miss. She's your guardian. I said nothing that day. I went home, smiled at my mother, had dinner like nothing happened, and I didn't sleep that night. I waited for my 18th birthday like someone waits for the end of a nightmare. I hoped it was all a misunderstanding. But when the day came, reality slapped me. My mother, my own mother, had stolen part of what my father left for me. And when I asked her why, she simply said, "I deserved it. I raised you alone. No one ever gave me anything. I didn't know a mother's love had a price." I still remember that moment. I called her into the living room. She came in, relaxed, coffee in hand. Me. I was shaking. I handed her the papers. Without a word, she read them. Slowly. Her expression didn't change. No fear. No guilt. Just a sigh. "So what?" That sentence. I'll never forget it. I asked if she realized what she had done. She looked at me like I was the villain. "You think raising a kid alone is easy? You think money falls from the sky? That money, your father left me nothing. Nothing. So I took what I deserved." I stood frozen. "You stole it, Mom." She laughed. A bitter little laugh. "Was it yours? You were underage. I managed everything. You never lacked a thing, did you? So stop being dramatic." I no longer recognized the woman in front of me. She had always been tough, but never cruel. I went upstairs, heart heavy, and that night, I thought long and hard. I was 18. I was legal, free, but I was alone. The next day, I did 2 things. I called a lawyer, and I blocked her number. I didn't want to hear from her. I didn't want her voice anymore. She broke me, but I wasn't ready to give up. I was nervous. My heart raced as I sat in the waiting room. The floor creaked under my steps. The scent of polished wood suffocating. When the lawyer called me in, I took a deep breath. He was in his 50s, serious, tired eyes but kind. "Élodie, right? Have a seat." I told him everything, from start to finish. My father's death, my mother, the transfers, her justification. He took notes silently, then leaned toward me. "You want to know if it's legal?" I nodded. He sighed. "It's murky. She was your legal guardian, so she had access. But if she used the funds for her personal gain, without direct benefit to your upbringing, it may be considered abuse of trust." I sat up straighter. He saw the spark in my eyes. "But these cases are delicate. Very delicate. Because it's family, and it's your mother. We need solid proof." I handed him the statements, the amounts, the dates, everything. He studied them carefully, then looked me in the eyes. "Do you really want to go through with this?" I hesitated. Just a second. Then I said, "Yes. She needs to answer for what she did. She betrayed my father. And she betrayed me." He nodded. "Then we begin today." And at that moment, I knew there was no turning back. From the outside, everything seemed normal. I went to class, worked weekends, smiled at the neighbors. But inside, I was at war. I hadn't told anyone what my mother had done. Not even my best friend, not even my aunt. I kept it all to myself. I knew that the moment I opened up, the judgments would flood in. "You're suing your own mother? She raised you, didn't she? Maybe she took a little, but she loves you." I could already hear them. So I stayed silent. And I dug. I spent countless evenings gathering evidence. Every transfer, every suspicious expense. One day, I found a strange purchase, a weekend in a luxury hotel, paid from one of my accounts. I was 17 that year. While I was studying for finals, she was relaxing at a 5-star spa. I cried that night, not because of the money, because of the disregard. She hadn't even considered me, just used me. The lawyer urged me to stay calm, methodical, but inside I boiled. Every memory of her smile made me want to scream. And despite all of that, part of me still loved her. And that was the most painful part. I lived through a conflict no one could understand. Because the thief was the woman who taught me how to walk. I went back to her house, not to talk, not to forgive, just to collect my things. She opened the door without a word. Her stare was cold, empty. You want to act like an adult? Then go all the way. She stepped aside. I climbed the stairs to my room, the room I grew up in. Everything was untouched. Too untouched. The bed, the posters, childhood books. As if she had frozen time. But I had changed. I packed my clothes, notebooks, memories. And every drawer I opened reminded me. She'd been there for it all. My heartbreaks, my exams, my nightmares. But now all of it felt bitter. I found a box. Inside were letters. My father had written them before he died. Some were for me. Others for her. I couldn't resist. I read hers. He wrote, "Take care of her, as I would have. Protect her, love her, and make sure she lacks nothing." Those words shattered me, because that's exactly what she hadn't done. She had betrayed me, and she had broken the dying promise of a man who loved us. I took the box, and as I came back down, I looked at her one last time. She told me, "You think you're better than me? One day, you'll understand." But no, I will never understand. With the lawyer, we started with a letter, a formal demand. Polite, but firm. I read it over and over. Every word cut like a blade. We requested justification of the funds withdrawn between years X and Y. Failing to respond, legal action for breach of trust may be initiated. She received it 3 days later. She didn't reply. Complete silence. The lawyer said, "It's common. Either she's panicking or preparing her defense." I wasn't afraid anymore. Just angry. Every day, more documents to sign, verify, or send. I lived in a haze of paperwork, appointments, phone calls. And yet, I felt stronger, straighter. I wasn't a child anymore. I was a woman, demanding justice. But there were moments of emptiness. At night, alone. I'd replay it all. The laughter, the dinners, the hugs. And I wondered, does she regret it? Or does she just see me as ungrateful? Then one day, I got a message. From her. For words. "You disgust me." I read it. And I smiled. Because for the first time, she wasn't in control. Silence is a prison. But sometimes, one spark can bring down all the walls. That's what happened when my aunt called me. An aunt on my father's side, someone we rarely saw. "Can I come see you? I've heard some things." She came with a cake, as if nothing was wrong. But her eyes told a different story. She sat down, took my hand. "Your mother, we always knew she loved you in her own way. But she always had a problem with money. And with your father." I listened, without interrupting. She told me that even when my dad was alive, they argued over money. He wanted to save everything for me. She wanted a more comfortable life. Your father made it clear in his will. Everything was for you, not a cent for her. He thought she already had enough. I looked at her, frozen. I didn't know that. She never accepted that. And when he died, she just waited until you were old enough for no one to watch anymore. My throat tightened. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" She lowered her eyes. "Because we hoped she'd do the right thing. And we didn't want family drama. But now, you need to know." I showed her the proof. She nodded slowly. Then she said, "Do what you have to do, Élodie. Your father would have wanted that." And that sentence gave me strength again. A week later, I received a registered letter. From my mother. No call. No message. A letter. I opened it. My hand shaking. 3 pages. Handwritten. No apology. Only defense. "You think you know everything. But you ignore the sacrifices. You ignore what I've gone through alone. You call me a thief, but without me, you'd be on the streets." Every sentence was a slap. "You think your father was perfect? You don't know anything. You were a child. You only saw what he wanted you to see." I froze. She was trying to tarnish his memory, to justify herself. Then came the dagger. "Go to court if you want. But remember, I gave everything for you. And this is how you repay me." I didn't cry. I felt my anger fade. Not because I forgave her, but because I understood. She didn't feel guilty. She felt robbed. In her mind, she was entitled. I visited my lawyer the next day. I showed him the letter. He read it quietly. then said, "She won't settle. She's going to fight. Prepare yourself." And I answered, "So will I." It wasn't about money anymore. It was about justice and self-respect. The days dragged on, heavy and tense. I lived like I was holding my breath. Every morning, I wondered what else this battle would cost me. My sleep was broken. My university grades started to slip. I still told no one. I felt like a soldier, silent, determined, but exhausted. One day, the lawyer told me. My mother had hired her own attorney. Now it was real, official, cold. Court summons would be sent, documents requested, witnesses interviewed. I sat alone in my room, looked around, and wondered, is it worth it? Not the money, the energy, the fight, the wounds. Then I picked up my father's letters and found a line. "I have forgotten. If one day you must make a hard choice, choose the one that lets you hold your head high." I closed my eyes. I smiled, and I knew, yes, it was worth it. I was no longer a hurt little girl. I was a woman, rebuilding her dignity. And if the cost of truth was losing a mother, then so be it, because the truth is, she had already lost me. The court day arrived. I was prepared, plain suit, files in hand, but my heart beat so fast I could barely hear my lawyer speak. Then she entered, my mother, cold, composed, no emotion on her face. She sat a few meters from me, no glance, no word. The judge came in, and suddenly, everything sped up. The lawyers talked, mentioned the amounts, the years, the bank statements. She sat still, sometimes nodded, sometimes pursed her lips. When she spoke, my hands trembled. "I don't recognize this as theft. I used that money to raise her, to house her, feed her, educate her. Everything I did was for her. And the worst part, she sounded sincere. But my lawyer was sharp. He showed the statements, the unjustified expenses, spa treatments, jewelry, vacations. "Can you explain how these expenses benefited your daughter?" She stumbled. She stuttered, then snapped. "You have no idea what I sacrificed for her. She accuses me now, but without me, she'd be nothing." Silence. And in that silence, I felt the shift. I was no longer the ungrateful daughter. She was now the selfish mother. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just looked at the judge and said, "I'm only asking for what's mine. What my father left for me. Nothing more." And in his eyes, I knew he understood. The days that followed were the longest of my life. The verdict would come in 2 weeks. 2 weeks of replaying everything, questioning every word said in court. The lawyer stayed confident. The case is strong. The evidence is clear. But I couldn't stop wondering. What if it wasn't enough? What if the law sided with blood ties? I pretended to be fine, but inside, it was chaos. I walked a lot, alone, listened to voices in the wind, as if my father could still guide me. Sometimes, I thought of calling her, telling her I was tired, that we should settle it, just the two of us. But each time, I remembered her face, the contempt, the lack of remorse. So I clenched my jaw and stayed the course. One evening, my aunt invited me to dinner. She hugged me like a mother would, and she said, "You're doing what none of us dared. Saying no, setting a boundary. Your father would be proud of you." I broke down crying, not out of sadness, out of relief. Someone understood. Finally, I wasn't alone. So I waited, day by day, minute by minute. And when the envelope came, I knew my life was about to change. The verdict was clear. The court recognized the abuse of trust. My mother was ordered to repay part of the withdrawn funds. Not all, but enough to prove she was at fault. I didn't jump for joy. I didn't celebrate. I just sat there, alone, reading every line, in silence. It was a win, but not the one I had hoped for, because what I had lost, no money could replace. My image of her, the warmth of home, trust, all gone. With the transfers she made behind the back of the child she claimed to love, I placed the money in an account. I didn't touch it for months, as if it was poisoned. Then one day, I chose to use it for something good. I paid for my final year of university, and a trip, not to escape, to heal. I never saw my mother again. She never reached out, but sometimes, in a dream, I see her face. And in that dream, she asks, "Do you regret it?" And I answer, "No. What I regret is that you weren't who I believed you were." Today, I walk tall, with a complicated past, but a clear conscience. What she truly left me was a strength I never knew I had, and that no theft could ever take from me.